Hi, I'm Sophie,
Hi, I'm Paul,
and we are SP Film Viewers.
and for today's film that Sophie hasn't seen before is The Shape of Water, directed by Guillermo del Toro back in 2017, and it is a romance/fantasy film with maybe a little bit of horror.
Yeah, it's got this. It covers quite a lot, I'd say, in this film. Back end is definitely a horror. So this film's actually been cropping up quite a bit recently when we've been kind of looking at what films to be picking.
Yeah, from the list we do the random generator of spreadsheet, but
I think it's come up like the past 3 weeks or something ridiculous.
or something like that. Yeah, so
And I've not really picked it. I've overpicked other films instead, and I was just like, there must be a reason why this keeps cropping up now. I'm gonna just have to watch it. And here we are.
Yeah.
So initially, my first thoughts is when this lady comes on the screen that she is from Paddington.
Yes.
So she's a leading lady, and she is called Eliza.
Yeah, and the actress's name is Sally Hawkins, and she does a pretty powerful performance in this, really, I think, with how she is, particularly as she's playing a mute character.
It's amazing. It really is. She is really, really expressive with her face, and
Definitely, yeah.
it comes across her feelings and her emotions. Obviously, her acting skills have to be even
more on point.
Yeah, because obviously she can't speak. So her expressions are, you feel how she's feeling, and that is obviously a true reflection on how well of an actress she has portrayed this character. I do get a sort of 50s style feel to it, but then you corrected me, didn't you?
Well, it's very close though. It's 1960s when it's set in American, like I think the Cold War type of era thing. You know, like Russia wanting to beat the Americans to the punch with doing things and all that kind of stuff.
It was more the style of the clothing, so obviously it wasn't as much of a 50s feel, but like the hair and the shoes, you could tell it was an old style kind of feel.
Yeah.
Even though it wasn't only recently kind of been done in 2017. It's like obviously they've chosen to put it into that time capsule.
Yeah.
It starts off quite somewhat like there's a magical feel about the air, and you feel like there's this magic kind of music, and there's like sort of whimsical
aspect to it. Yeah, this fantasy element to it in that sense.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a lot based on obviously water, because obviously it's called The Shape of Water, and you kind of get this magic of like how the light, I've noticed they were playing a lot on that, like how the light would hit the water and the shimmer and
things, yeah.
And I think that was linking with obviously
what was to come.
Yeah. Which was quite cleverly done. I think you even mentioned there was a lot of blue and greens.
Yeah, blue and I think it's teal as well. And greens very prominent throughout, you know, in the walls, and other things like the car, for example.
Yes.
That comes down later on, and other things, and also the creature itself.
Being
that colour.
It is a lovely colour. I did notice though, sidetracking to obviously with the colour.
Yeah.
The people who weren't a good character, it feels like they didn't have to portray the green as much. So like, for example, obviously I know Strickland had the teal car.
He's the big bad, if you will, in this.
Yeah, he's the big bad wolf. He's horrible. He's actually horrible.
Yeah.
But then when you kind of saw his family, like the American Happy Life family, there were more yellows and greens.
More vibrant.
It was like, it was kind of, looked like an old picture gone, like, kind of a wished out colour.
For him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it kind of, that I seem to see quite dramatically a colour change within his home life, kind of change. It looked like a fade of a memory, even though he was living it.
Mm-hmm.
So at the beginning, you kind of get in the feel of obviously what Eliza's life is like. Obviously being mute.
She had some marks on her neck.
It looked like something had caught, like either been strangled or caused her to be mute. I felt personally, and you can kind of see her life kind of panning out, and her somewhat struggles to say. I'd like to think she's quite a happy person in general. She does have quite a lot of supportive characters, like friendships around her.
Yeah, like a neighbour.
that is such a lovely relationship. It's like having your best friend living next door. That's how it kind of felt. It reminded me a little bit of Friends with the kind of the hallway and the two doors
just adjacent to one another. Yeah. And then just popping over and out. And also a colleague as well.
Her colleague genuinely is. It's more of a friendship, isn't it? It's not just somebody who is a co-worker. They do care and look out for one another. And like, she's always clocking her in.
Yeah.
On time because she's always late and clocks her out and stuff, and really generally is her voice, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
At work.
Absolutely, yeah. Because she obviously can't speak out for herself, so she's sort of like the running commentary of how things are going on throughout.
But you can see it's not
in a workplace.
A manipulative thing. It's a
no, definitely not.
True friendship of kindness and looking out for this girl. She wants the best intentions for her, so she's quite lucky in that sense. Obviously, they're both cleaners in this. I was like to you, what even is this place like that they're cleaning in? Like, obviously, they do not get paid enough to do what they do.
It's not like a government-run Area 51 type thing, like keeping it away from the people. So
I think there's probably something in the UK, probably, or somewhere in America that this happens, where there is I do believe that, like a government thing, where things like this do happen and they just hide it. There probably is such things as like the Avengers or something, and we just don't know about it.
That would be pretty sweet.
Or like mermaids, but they're just like, oh no, we possibly couldn't put that into society because, our heads would just explode, wouldn't they? But obviously there must be I always think there's some truth in these things, because where did they come from? Where does that person's imagination kind of get to this point?
Themes like that have been running for various years, from when the 50s were, with the whole black and white science fiction films where they imagine like space aliens and all that kind of stuff.
So obviously they've got this top mission now in this government place where they've got this new project which is going to bring in like loads of money, and it's kind of the thing where it's so important to keep this as priority one, and it's massive, which is actually this creature which is like a fish human scale man, human fish,
humanoid fish creature,
monster, but he's not really like a monster. They treat him like a monster, but he's very, very tamed somewhat, really. He doesn't really want to harm unless he's provoked.
Yeah.
So it's quite a weird relationship that kind of starts to blossom. It starts off quite sweet, and you can see that obviously Eliza can see herself in him, because obviously he's misunderstood at times and she feels like she's the same. He can't really speak either, and they have this other kind of other level connection.
Being different.
And he understands her sign language, so obviously she does sneak in a couple of times to have her lunch with him, and she's like giving him an egg, and then she's sign language and egg, and he starts to understand it. Yeah. And same with music, he's starting to
understand that, and
so building this relationship of like knowledge and it's like kind of communicating in other manners, and it's quite lovely to see that blossoming. But then it seems to be that it goes to want to kind of every lunchtime now it's like I must see him level. So obviously going back to this Strickland character, he is absolutely horrible. He's like the worst human being you would ever know. It shows you what money can sometimes do to a human. So like the level of success that you are, the higher you are up, that you could see he was run down with stress. He didn't have any time for his family, but he got all these nice new shiny things. But the human part of him, I felt he was not human anymore.
He essentially a monster, if you want.
He was he was the monster compared to the fish scaly man. He had more feeling, did the scale fish man, than him. So he does provoke the Strickland, the fish creature, a lot. And there is a scene where, deservedly right, he loses 2 fingers to Strickland.
Yes, just before we even know about the creature, so
and obviously the 2 ladies have to clean up, and this is how she gets kind of intrigued
with all this. But
the fingers, I feel like, kind of a thing throughout the film, because obviously he then gets them stitched back on.
Yeah.
And they need stitched back on.
Yeah.
And you need to see if they're going to take, obviously, back onto his hands. He's obviously not very well with the fact that these have been, it's not going right.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously they end up turning black.
Yeah. Almost like the, green and rotting, like the colour of what the creature is. In a way, so it's kind of like contrasting.
And it's starting to smell as well at this point. So we'll touch back on the fingers later, because I think that is kind of actually throughout the story is somewhat important too.
Okay.
So Eliza comes up with this brilliant plan that she's going to have to steal the fishman.
Well, I wouldn't say a brilliant plan. I think she just wants to set him free because it's like, it's not right for him being kept up in this facility.
Also, I think behind the background, I don't know if she's aware of this, but they're actually wanting to kill him, aren't they?
Dissect him, whatever, yeah.
Look into him, see
like
what he is.
Yeah. As you do, don't you?
So they're going to learn things, but actually it'd be better if he lived, because you could not test on him, but you could be examining him, like, from afar, kind of not having to test and probe him, but kind of watch his mannerisms, so to speak. She does actually get, I've put here, it's Operation Move the Human Fish. That's my wordings.
It's a good name. Maybe not the slickest code name, but yeah. Very, very on the nose.
I thought you'd like that one. So, they do actually do it quite successfully, but, however, if they didn't have, I've put him down as the mad scientist.
Yeah, he's kind of like I'm assuming the one who's got the other name, Dimitri.
Yes.
Who's actually called Bob in this facility. It's kind of like the double agent type.
Or Dr. Is it Hofstetter? Hofstetter?
Which I'm sure isn't that the one from Big Bang Theory?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird, but anyway.
Because Leonard, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's him who helps them out, because I think he's kind of like wanting the best for the creature as well.
Definitely is, and I do feel for him, because obviously once the creature has been taken away, you can kind of sense that the shift of the film is moving now. It's like, okay, you've had this kind of build up of getting to know the characters. It's been quite nice and pleasant throughout, and then it's like this kind of getting to your action part, I'd say.
Yeah.
So you know that he's going to be a high suspect of the fact that this creature has gone missing, because he didn't want to kill him. He wanted an extra 20 or 48 hours to kind of do a little bit more work on him. So he's kind of got himself into a lot of issues, hasn't he, really?
Yeah.
So you kind of get to see a relationship grow between Eliza and the creature. Obviously, he's struggling living in her apartment, and there is a horrific scene where he eats her next door neighbour's cat.
Yeah, you weren't too happy about that. I knew that was coming, and thinking, oh, you're not going to like this. You're not going to like this.
I was not.
I don't know how that would play out in terms of like, oh, he's gone downhill on my book kind of thing. Like, would you carry on liking even that incident, or? Well,
I wouldn't go as far as Eliza did, to be fair with him.
Yeah.
After his but then I guess it wasn't my cat, was it? It was my friend's cat.
Yeah.
So I know that sounds different, but it's like, well, that would change my mind. If it were my own cat, I'd be like...
Yeah, get out.
Yeah.
Get out on the streets.
How dare you eat my cat? But maybe if it was someone else's cat, it might be a bit more forgiving, I don't know.
Right, okay.
But I wasn't impressed with that scene. I didn't like it. It's like, I felt like that didn't need to be in. But
yeah, I kind of agree with you there a little bit, but I'm kind of showing the ferocity of him, even in these circumstances, but he probably didn't really need it to really.
No, I don't really think.
Other than the fact that it was really showing the fact, because obviously he ran off and scratched the neighbour's arm, and he got injured, and then obviously later on it comes into play that he has these magical powers where he can sort of like Wolverine sort of pass on to like the healing factor of healing the wound. So that's why that happened.
Yeah, and
the
head.
Yes, also. With
his hair growing.
Yeah. I don't know about whether you think this or not, but with obviously the relationship that's building between Eliza and the creature, any sort of similarities with maybe like Beauty and the Beast.
Somewhat. Obviously, in Beauty and the Beast, it's a little bit more tamed than what this relationship becomes.
Yeah.
But I can kind of see the intrigueness from, like, Eliza being Belle.
Yeah.
Like, she's more fascinated by him.
Yeah.
And he's kind of not as aware of that or wanting that kind of relationship because he's not sure what that is. So, yeah, I do agree with you on that part.
Yeah.
So, there is a case of she's starting to really, really grow that kind of somewhat love towards him now. Obviously, there is a bit of scenes where they do kind of get it on.
Yeah, thankfully not too graphically shown, but it's just like, implied that happens.
Which is each to their own, that's fine. Yeah. But I do think it was a bit, I don't know, just the thought of it kind of for me was a bit like, I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Yeah. Like, I think that could have been implied by simply like having a scene where she kind of goes out the room, doesn't she? Like, like, I don't want to do this, and then she's like, I'm going to go to bed, but then she goes back in and unrobes. Whereas if maybe she did that, like a thing where she does that and maybe closes the door, sort of like a suggestive thing, just that, and then that's. Like,
did you need to see it all kind of intertwining a little bit? No,
there's a problem with.
There's like. No, they're in, and obviously
because again there wasn't anything graphic, but it was just.
I think it's just a concept of it. I think for me, more because obviously it is at the end of the day a creature.
Yeah.
Obviously the creature is willing, so it's not like anything like that. But it's just a bit more like I'm not sure how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
So Eliza's now struggling with the fact that her plan was to obviously set him free,
which I think she's still plans to go ahead with. She's not like no, you can't possibly go, but it's kind of obviously more heartbreaking as the days get closer to. And
obviously she's got so close to him now. She's finding that difficult to kind of have that kind of departure really. Whereas I think if she hadn't had that happen, it would have been easier on herself. At this point, it's kind of you've got like the stress side with Strickland, like trying to frantically find.
Oh, at this point he's kind of getting so desperate in his actions of trying to find out where this thing is and all that kind of stuff. He's just you can see him losing his psyche on things. Definitely.
And he's actually turning more and more into a monster. You've got like kind of the romance side where it's like with Eliza and the creature, and that's like a nice kind of bit, and then you've got the horrible side, which is Strickland, and that's like it gets to a point where it gets really, really gruesome at the back end, and I'm like, I can't physically watch. So he's now kind of thinking that Bob Dimitri is a suspect, and he's been kind of following him around.
Yeah.
And he kind of finds out that I think Bob is kind of got a split life going on. So he's obviously working for the Russians, but then didn't want to kill the creature. But he's been working for Strickland, and the same outcome was coming.
Yeah, he doesn't want to do that either.
So then he went against both of them, which then meant he had two bad people coming after him. So you knew, sadly, he was such a nice guy, he didn't deserve to die.
No, he didn't really.
But it was inevitable that was gonna happen.
Yeah.
So obviously the Russians come after him, and then Strickland kills the Russian people, and then kind of there's a bit of it was horrible. It really was. It was very bloody as well. And he shoots him to Strickland, and he shoots him he's already had a shot in his...
No, I think that was the Russians who shot him.
But then he puts him...
Oh, he put his finger in his mouth where he's been shot and just drags him over to the...
And then there's a part where he's doing something to his stomach. And he's like pulling out God knows what, and like, because obviously he's been shot there, and he's in, and it's like, and he's like proper, you can see this man's proper in agonising pain. And it's like, this is just horrible. No human would physically be able to do that, because I can't even watch it. Never mind thinking of doing that to a human. So obviously he does slip out that the fact that it's the cleaners that have been involved in this, and he didn't know the names, and he twigs on who it is. So he goes obviously to the cleaner, Eliza's friend's house. This is where it comes with the fingers. So obviously he's got two black fingers.
Decaying fingers, And
I'm like, I'm confused. This film was like 1 minute going to a nice, whimsical, kind of romantical place, and I was really enjoying that.
Yeah.
And then it's like switched, and we're like in Armageddon or something ridiculous, and it's like horrible people are getting.
What do you mean Armageddon?
Feels like just blood massacre kind of things.
There's no blood and massacre in Armageddon.
Well, it feels like it. It feels like there's loads.
Like a horror film.
Horrible.
Yeah.
It's horrible. And I'm like, I don't understand what I'm watching.
Right.
Have we changed the channel? No, we're watching the same thing, but it's still horrific. So, go on, you're going to have to tell him about the fingers, because I can't.
Well, he's basically explaining about this whole thing about Samson and Delilah's story, and then, he's telling this story about, is it Philistines or something, that brings the temple down with him or whatever, and then, while he's explaining this anyway, he just kind of pulls his dead fingers off and just chucks them into the living, so you see the bloody mess that's coming from the bank.
But you can hear the crunching and the cracking of his bones while he's pulling it off, and I'm like, so even when I'm covering my eyes, I could still hear what was happening, and it's like, I feel physically sick. So her husband chirps up that it's Liza that's got him, and this is where it gets like the action side of things, doesn't it? Because obviously Eliza's having to rush to the docks to free the creature, and then you've got Strickland coming obviously after her.
Yeah.
So this is where it's near enough at the end, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where you get to see what the outcome is. It kind of gives you a bit of up and down, I'd say. At the end, it's quite cleverly action-packed with the way that you think that Strickland has got the best of both Eliza and the Fishman. Okay. And I thought it might have ended there.
Yeah, you really thought it was going to be that morbid, in a sense.
I didn't know at this point because it had taken me through so many different emotions. I didn't even know what to really comprehend until obviously, like you were saying, he's got healing powers as a creature. So he magically heals himself, but he's not really able to heal Eliza. He doesn't do it while he's on land.
No.
Anyways, which I thought he might have tried to straight away do something about it, but he kind of picks her.
Well, he takes out Strickland.
Yeah.
I think he wants to
Slashes
sort of
his throat,
which is again just being destroyed by colour that he seems to hate. He doesn't have very much luck with the colour green or teal.
No, he doesn't.
Things and things like the car, like we said before, when they were doing the escape, that got totaled.
Oh yeah, that was so funny. 'Cause it must have cost a fortune, that car, and it got smashed, didn't it?
So yes, it ends up being destroyed by something that he pretty much despises.
Yeah, I feel like he deserved to die.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
He was the monster in this, not the creature.
Yeah. But so as you said, after that he jumps in the canal with her, and in the water able to transform her into being come alive, and also acquire gills on the neck so that she can breathe.
Is that what that was?
Yes.
I didn't twig onto that.
Did you not see that properly?
No, I just thought it was referring to her scratches, but because you had this, it was where her scratch marks were.
Yes, that's what. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that didn't register.
Gills. So he's kind of transformed her
into so that they can both live in water.
Kind of ends just them kind of
embraced in
the water.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if that would be a case of, because at the end it does say that they didn't know that Eliza, if he rescued her or not. Yeah. She's not like she came to visit and say, I'm alright.
No, there was no end credits going like bobbing around for two or anything like that, no. That's it. And it
was her neighbour's voice saying it, and then saying obviously she was misunderstood for most of her life, and that now he realised that she has pursued her life with love in mind.
Yeah.
And that's how it ends. And I was a little bit like, wow, I've gone on this roller coaster of whimsical, magical, romantic, mystical kind of creature to kind of like dark and horrific horror at the same time. And it's like, that's why it does emerge into so many categories. If I'm completely honest, I preferred, for me, because I don't like gore and I don't like blood or anything, like, I would have said I preferred the beginning part of the film more for the whimsical kind of magical romance that was blooming for me. That's
okay. You're saying that it's very much reminds me quite a lot of another film that sort of has that feel to it, especially because again there was like a lot of French inspired music in that.
Yes.
A film called Amélie, which is kind of like that daydreamy, whimsical aspect throughout the film. So at some point we can see it, and you probably like that anyway. But yeah, that's sounds fairly positive. But what is the actual scoring?
It's quite interesting to think of a score, because I feel like I did prefer the beginning part to the end, and the ending. Obviously, now that you've explained that she got gills, I didn't even twig on to that part. So I obviously was aware he'd done something that she could live underwater.
Right.
But what?
Because she was awake.
Yeah, so I knew she was awake and she was able, but I didn't know he'd given her gills to enable her to live underwater. I don't know what he'd done.
Okay.
And the ending, I don't feel like that was a strong ending, so to speak. It was good.
Right.
But I don't think it, you know me, I like a little bit more than that. I like to be more fulfilled. Maybe if you'd have seen some little green creatures, because obviously they could, you know, maybe they've had a family under the sea or something.
Right, okay. No, I think that would really quite take away from the whole...
I think it was a good ending, but...
Not tragedy, so to speak, but kind of like bittersweet.
Yeah.
You know,
I know what you mean.
But I don't think that
I think it was really well done, the way that they did the whole era and the music that they had and everything. It really had like its own niche. I felt it was, you could see that everything that they did was a thought behind.
Well, yes, Del Toro does well in portraying obviously this love of cinema that he has, and especially the fact that there was various parts where obviously like on the TV there was always constantly like some old timey TV musical stuff, and also the fact that there's a cinema downstairs below from the apartments, which again was showing screenings, and there's one point where the fish creatures were obviously when he's escaped from the apartments, and he's kind of just there like standing in awe of what's on the screen kind of thing, which is kind of thing, it's quite like a magical thing, even sea creature beings can appreciate cinema.
I knew you'd love that bit.
Yeah.
So for that aspect, I did really enjoy watching it. There was like the way that he portrayed water, even like when she was sat on the bus.
Yeah, and you got that. Yeah, the rain droplets going in the air. Sorry, poetic. Yeah, and the movements.
And it went with the music, and there was always like a shimmer to.
Like you said before, yeah.
Yeah, and it just did feel like he was under the sea. For quite a bit of it. So I think that the actual cinema part of it was very appealing, and I'm surprised at how much I did see of this. So obviously I'm learning more movies that we are watching, because I don't think I'd have ever even picked up on that beforehand.
This is good.
I do think for me, obviously the back end, it was strong, but maybe not as much blood and gore for my liking. I feel like that kind of spoilt it a little bit, because it had this other level that it didn't need to go that dark.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I think they were doing so well with the romantic kind of side of it. It didn't need to pan that far in. Yeah. But maybe for other viewers that like that kind of horror thing, that might work for them. So I'd say I would probably watch it again, because I think there'd be lots of things I will have missed. And there's probably other little hidden treasures in there that I haven't even seen.
Yeah, it's really good to rewatch this one, I'd say. What's your final score then?
I'd say a 7.5. I think it's been knocked a little bit just for the blood and gore for me.
Okay.
I would probably want to score it maybe an 8 just for the cinema.
That's right. Maybe if you saw it again at a later date, you might change.
Yeah. But I think obviously...
At this moment in time, you're going for a 7.5.
What about you?
I think my scoring for this, I'm going to go middle ground as well. So it's going to be an 8.5.
Okay. Yeah, no, I can value that. Is that more for the cinema kind of appeal to
the aesthetic and stuff, and the fact that how Del Toro is, I mean, from his other films, he's got obviously a real love for the old monsters. I mean, you've seen Pacific Rim.
Oh, yes.
Massive monsters and stuff. So, and the way that and Also, he's directed Hellboy, which the guy who was in the humanoid fish costume was the same guy who was the fish guy in that film as well. So, I mean, it's impressive how he's still doing these practical effects with, the costumes and stuff, and making the monsters look fairly realistic.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Rather than just CGI nonsense. And just, they're all a bunch of really interesting characters. I kind of like how, obviously, the Get-Go Strickland is a nasty character. You already get the sense of that just in the way his mannerisms and his stern face and everything. But then this whole derailing of him as he goes along, well, I suppose I'd be pissed off if I just lost two of my fingers and they're not taking.
Yeah, and then his car gets smashed into, and he's going to lose his job if he doesn't.
Yeah. And then that aspect of how he's like popping these candies like pills kind of thing, and he's kind of like, when he's eating them, sometimes he's kind of like, that determines his mood, how he's eating them. Yeah. Kind of thing. Like, if he's like stressed, he's kind of just chews them. Yeah. Straight, which he kind of explains when he's torturing Dimitri, I think, and stuff. But. And yeah, I do like the whole hopeless romantic aspect to it all. The thing, like how everything's all peachy and stuff, and the fact that how the love develops, but then it's you've got to let it go. Yeah. Type of thing for the best.
Because you can see how happy Eliza is when she's at work, and kind of like everything's all rosy, kind of so to speak.
I just like that whole dynamic they've got going on.
I think it is really, really well done film. It's definitely something to watch. The only reason why I've marked it, I won't even say I've marked it down that much.
No.
I think it's more just because of the gore for me, because the back end of the film, I don't think I watched much of it, because really to the ending I was literally covering my eyes, and it's like, that's not what I would class as an enjoyable experience. But the first half was solid, wonderful. Yeah, it really was. I think it has a brilliant concept behind it. It's obviously showing a meaning as well, of like, you can love
whoever again, no matter.
Also, massive, we have to say that the fact that she played a mute character, and I think I've never seen that really before.
Yeah, it must be actually fairly difficult to not be able to speak and only deliver with expressions and stuff. And without, obviously not being a mute, having to pretend to be mute and not say anything when you're doing stuff. So. Also, like, kind of her actions, like the way that she had to, and how strongly she felt about when she was trying to deliver a word in. Yeah. Like, and like kind of like say me, kind of like when she was trying to explain to her neighbour to save the creature, she was so passionate about it, and I think that was a whole new level of acting for me personally that I haven't seen before. Oh, and finally, one thing I wrote down, I don't know if you did, about the only part where she does actually vocalise is when she does this like musical number. I don't really feel like this added much. It was more like a dream state, wasn't it? Yes, it was, because she was trying to express through song, but obviously you knew it was not truly happening. But I thought it was quite an amusing thing. And it was actually based off a Ginger Rogers Fred Astaire.
Oh, really? I can kind of see that, yeah.
Which is kind of funny, seeing a fish creature doing a musical number.
It does look, it has that kind of sense of era to it. Yeah, it does.
But that just shows how much she cares. She wants to express that, obviously, but she can't do that through her words, so she's kind of imagining it, but that's how strongly she feels about it.
Yeah. I think it just made it look, it was more like a bit of a cliche kind of dancing scene that popped up.
But again, I think it's more of a love for cinema, really. So
yeah, especially with the...
Yeah, so we were...
all good.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for listening to my thoughts, and I hope that you go check out this film, because it is beautiful to watch.
I heartily agree. It's definitely one to watch if you haven't seen it before, and especially if you like Del Toro's monster type films.
So we are actually doing something really fun this weekend to come in. So it's Paul's birthday weekend next weekend. So obviously we have a love for cinema, and we always would normally But going to the cinema quite regularly, if there is something in the cinema, we would be going.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to make a home cinema experience. So I've already ordered like the pick and mix. We've got it all sorted, and Paul's going to have like a movie day where he gets to pick, which he still hasn't done yet.
No, I've had to try and narrow it down from some things I've seen, but I want to obviously watch again, and some things that are like, oh, been sitting on the shelf for a while and like to see now. I've just sort of got some time dedicated to do that and stuff. So it's kind of like having to think about what is very important.
So we might have a choice for films, basically, of what we want to review. Yeah. So we're not sure if it's going to be a double we haven't seen, or if it's a case of Sophie has seen, or
something like that. I don't know yet, but
I'm definitely looking forward to having to have a movie marathon weekend.
Regardless, yeah. Even if it only becomes one thing that we review, but it would just be nice just to have that thing of just having a chill and.
Yeah, I think we should probably put a list on of what the viewings are.
I'll do like an Instagram post of like here's what we're watching today.
Yeah. So if anyone wants to join us, you're more than welcome to on that. Yeah. So thank you again.
Yes, thank you very much for listening to our review, and don't forget you can check out our other episodes on Podbean, Spotify, iTunes, wherever else you might get your podcasts from. And of course you can follow us on social media under the handle SP Film Viewers on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah, please do go and follow us, like us. Paul does a lot of effort on keeping that up to date. We'll also take a picture of his pick and mix bag because I am so excited for that. I think I'm more excited about that than the movies. So take care, everyone, won't you?
Yes, thank you once again, and we'll speak to you next time.
Speak to you next time.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.